It took 3 days to find the Watchtower and another day to reach it. The wide, smooth stone structure was visible through the gaps in the tree trunks. When I climbed a nearby tree to get a lay of the land, I could see the battered roof peeking out among the treetops. The fact that the roof was still intact was a good sign, and honestly very impressive. The stone structure had long withstood the test of time, its outside worn and smooth, but still standing sturdy. How something so tall remained hidden for so long was a mystery, though I doubted we were the first to find it. With the thick stone walls dotted with arrow slits and the only windows being near the top, it would be easily defensible from all sorts of things, making it the perfect hiding place. I signaled the others to stay alert as we approached. Sam fell in behind me and James behind him, making slightly more noise, but then he didn't have the practice we had. That said, he had been improving over the past few days. The druidess all but vanished into the shadows of the nearby brush. We approached with caution, but ultimately we found the tower to be empty. There were signs that it had been inhabited in the past, probably by multiple groups of people, but the only current occupants were mice, squirrels, some birds, and various other small critters. Nothing of immediate concern, but I made a note to be careful how we stored our ration.
Well, it looks safe enough. Should we split up and search the upper floors or stick together?
Let's split up. Sam and I will check the upper floors while James, you and the druidess stay down here. Or you could both go outside and forage. I spotted some berry bushes on our way in. Just keep an ear out in case we run into anything up there.
Of course.
We took our time clearing the upper levels, testing the strength of the stairs, which I was surprised to find were reinforced with metal and stone. Scant bits of furniture remained, more suitable for kindling than for use, likely left behind by the previous occupants. There are 4 floors in total. One that served as a storage space and a makeshift armory, one for the storage and preparation of food, as well as a small medical room, and the top floor was divided into 2 small rooms, with one larger taking up half the floor, the living quarters, and a study or general living space. We figured out what the rooms were using logic and context clues. Having food stores a few floors up decreased the likelihood of rodents spoiling the food. Most of the arrow slits were on the 2nd floor, so having weapons on that floor made for easy defense. There are also some grooves carved purposely into the stone that would have served to keep weapons racks and tables steady in case of jostling. The next level had no windows and sturdy doors, likely to prevent too much airflow from bringing in warmer temperatures and insects. It was an ideal place to store food, and in fact we saw some signs that others had used it for that purpose long ago, after the original inhabitants abandoned the building. And there had been other occupants who called this place home over the decades, but from what we could tell, the place had been unoccupied for at least a year before we found it. Once we completed our search, we deemed it safe enough to stay for a day or 2 while we figured out what to do next.
Well, we could just camp out here for the winter.
I'd much rather find a nice, cozy, bearless cave to stay in. Keeping this place warm in the winter would be really tough. Though, this would work wonderfully as a place to store things.
That may be true, but that isn't what we're here for. We need to inspect each floor to see if we can find a way forward.
Perhaps a brief rest first? This may take some time, and I know I cannot be the only one who's hungry.
We took some time to rest, then thoroughly examined the Watchtower. We found nothing of note beyond scraps of materials that we collected for use later. From one of the top window floors, the druidess spotted the roof of another Watchtower. Seeing as there was not much else to do beyond wandering further into the woods, hoping we stumbled across this unknown thing we were seeking, we set out for the other Watchtower. Whereas the first Watchtower was located in a small clearing, The second one was nestled within the trees, and its sides were partially covered in crawling, flowering vines. It looked like one of those towers princesses escape from in the tales they tell nowadays. The windows were shut tight from what we could see on the outside, and I was disappointed to find the front door was sealed shut, rusted and warped due to age. Thankfully, the druidess noticed signs that there may be another way in, based on some old tracks that I had missed, worn into the grass and brush. Sam investigated and found a small side door. This was also rusted, but with some work we were able to get it open without breaking it. It was in the second watchtower we found what we were looking for, because it had not been as thoroughly cleaned out as the first one had. In fact, it appeared someone had found their way in and spent some amount of time helping to preserve what was inside. Why someone would do such a thing, I could only speculate, as they were not here to ask and had not been for some time, but my guess was they were seeking to preserve this piece of history. Or it was just something for them to do. Either way. What records that had survived this long had been carefully, if imperfectly, copied over into newer journals, and the murals on the walls had been partially repainted. Once again, there were no usable food stores, but we had information.
I found it. I think I did. Look here. A friend of the king's had a lab near the market on the other side of the crossroads. He was ordering supplies, both mundane and magical, to build something nearby, but he would only tell the king what it was. It could be something unrelated, but it could also be what we're looking for. At the very least, we might find something there that will point us in the right direction.
It's worth investigating. Let's see if we can find a map to the Old Kingdom somewhere.
There is one painted on the ceiling on the top floor. It isn't overly detailed, and some of it is faded, but I copied it down anyway.
That's something at least. Keep looking. We need all the information we can get if we're going to find this thing. You have been listening to Ceasefire, the story of the end of a war that did not end the world. This story was written and produced by Brianna Jean as part of Pseudonym Social, a creative podcast network changing reality one story at a time. In this episode, you can hear the voices of Brianna Jean as Vivian, Zadkiel Vasky Huff as Sam, David Telstra as James, Jordan Marie as the Druidess. You can support all of our productions over at patreon.com/pseudonymsocial. To get more information on this or any of our other shows, check out our website at pseudonymsocial.com.